All right, I think we're live. Push one in the chat if you can hear me. All right, got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is OpenChat number 88. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. There'll be a Zoom link in the chat for you to join. When you click on it, make sure you update your Zoom client before joining. There's a new Zoom update that comes out every week, every few days. I want to clear something up real quick, do a 5-minute monologue, and then I'll drop the link. I was just on Black Gnostic Speaks, and thank you for having me up there, and up there with my my broski DC. I want to make this clear. We're not concerned about, you know, getting attention and getting you know, credit and stuff like that. I think that what happens in this space is that you have a lot of, to put it bluntly, you have a lot of dick riders in the space. And so people will hang on every word that a certain content creator says, even if it's not true, and then pretend that that's the gospel, that that's biblical, what they're saying. And when somebody like moi or the Black Brain Trust, or maybe even Code Breakers for that matter, comes up and says, nah, that's not true, and here's why it's not true, those people got a problem with it, okay? And so what happens over there is that there's a lot of co-signing of misinformation, okay? There's a lot of co-signing of misinformation over there. This brother said it himself, that the biggest threat to Black men isn't white supremacy, it's the gynocracy. He said this. But that's one of the main reasons why I had enumerated the space, because you didn't hear people talking like that back then. That was unheard of. It was unheard of to hear Mr. Legend from Black Men Vent, or Wise Nubian, or Soul in Black, or Doug Titian, any of your content creators back then to say something like that openly. That was unheard of back then. And so I had to kind of partition the space to say that there was something here before you, but it was nothing really like you. Now, Don Calypso is right that there was a gender war in 2008, 2009. That's because the women started it. And I would also attribute a lot of what that came from a male side, from Sergeant Willie Pete, because he kind of came in there with a lot of guns blazing, you know, in a very unorthodox way from what traditionally was the way how content creators really engaged each other. He wanted to take the gloves off, and that wasn't something that most people did. And that's what allowed his channel and many other channels to get flagged, because of how visceral he came at the women. He's different today than what he was back then, but a lot of people say they listen to him, but don't really know what went on back then. See, we can bring up segments in history to identify what happened. Now, what this guy V4V, or whatever his name is supposed to be, who's over there with his pom-poms out for BGS, he's in his 20s, but when all of this stuff was going on, you weren't even touching technology. You were not even in part of male spaces. So you're not even really a part of the conversation. The same thing to AB Media. AB Media does a lot of co-signing over there, but he doesn't really have anything to add to the conversation. If you leave AB Media by himself, he can't create, you know, discourse to save his life, to be quite frank with you. Not saying that I don't like him. I'm just saying he's not the highlight reel of the night when he's on the panel. And so what's happening here is that there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of high-fiving that goes on over there. And then you have people saying, well, this space helped me. Well, how can it help you if there's a lot of misinformation in the space? How can it help you? How can the misinformation help you? I was on Art Newstall's I think maybe about a month and a half ago, maybe a couple months ago, and you had what's this brother's name? BMT, who spread this, this video that the vice president was going to Africa and spreading LGBTQ over to Africa. And I asked him to provide the evidence of this because I had never heard of this. And so I went to the White House's website and pulled up the transcript, and none of that was in there. Now, she said something that was off the record, but in regards to human rights. Okay? That's really what she was talking about, was the human rights aspect. She wasn't trying to spread LGBTQ, but that's what goes on in those discussions. There's a lot of misinformation. This is a constant thing that goes on over there, which is why we had to separate ourselves as the Black Brain Trust, to separate ourselves from those guys over there, from the content that was being created, from the conversations that were being created over there. A lot of those guys will co-sign anything, and I mean anything that is anti-Black woman, and then pretend that it's not misogyny. Well, what are you arguing? Because if all of your topics are anti-Black women, then what do you call it then? Right? And so they're trying to make it seem as if we're begging for views or we're begging. First of all, we've never enabled super chats or cash apps or anything like that. Okay. Good evening, Shonda. We've never enabled super chats and cash apps because we had made an agreement from the very onset that we weren't going to accept money or monetize the channel. We were never going to do that because we saw what happened when quote unquote 2.0 monetized their channels. Okay. It brought a whole different audience, and you had a whole different sort of perspective to have that, in my opinion, was not, it wasn't genuine. So we didn't want to do that. We wanted to create a repository of content so that people coming along could actually, engage and benefit from it. Because it's one thing to go to Marquise Brownlee, but Marquise Brownlee's not going to let you on his panel. Okay. He lets white people on the panel. He's not going to let you on the panel. Okay. You can go to your average consumer bro, whatever that brother's name is. I forget his name now, but he's not letting you up on his panel. See, you're not going to, what you get from the Black Brain Trust, you're not going to get from anywhere else. There's nowhere else on YouTube where you can engage with other Black men in real time about these sort of conversations. Okay. You might be able to go over there and have that conversation, but I can almost guarantee you none of those people are SMEs. None of them. Where else are you going to get Black men like Dollar Will breaking down charts? And you get to engage him for free. You're never going to be able to get that from anywhere else. Where else are you going to find guys like Keep It Techie contributing to the panel and talking about SQL or database development? Where else are you going to get that? So we created the Brain Trust out of BGS's live streams, primarily because we were trying to have these conversations, but they were not trying to have these conversations. And so a lot of what we do here, I took from 1.0, okay? Because it was a lot more organized back then. You didn't have, you didn't have live, you didn't have panels like that. In order for you to have a panel, you had to have, people in a room and recorded it on video. You didn't have live streaming. That didn't exist. Live streaming is a new feature technology that came out of 4G. You didn't have that with 3G. At least not in high definition and not in the capacity that you do today. And so to 1.0 wasn't just about content. It was about people, technology, discourse. It wasn't just about uploading content and show me the evidence. But every time we showed evidence, they don't accept it. They just reject it and say, oh, well, that ain't, that ain't nothing. You had somebody in BGS's chat room say that basically I'm a nobody in the space. But how can I be a nobody if you guys are using the 1.0, 2.0 enumeration? You see, what they're trying to do is socially dominate the space so that only their voice is heard. and that nobody else's voice can be heard. And if anybody else decides to engage, then they just, they just kind of dismiss you. But that's why we had to leave, because that's exactly what went on before. You see, no action is taken on that side of the fence. No action is taken. 17-point agenda today, that didn't, they weren't talking about that before. That only came with T.S. Johnson. That didn't come before. See, T.S. Johnson had to bring the organizational piece. We were trying to bring the organizational piece, and they weren't trying to hear it because they only wanted to have a conversation amongst themselves, and that was it. So when you hear them say, oh, well, we had this big impact, I'm saying, how can you have an impact with misinformation? There's a lot of misinformation that goes on over there. And I have to constantly come up on whether it's Art Newstall's panel or somebody else's panel and say, no, that's not true, and here's the evidence. Okay, here's the evidence from this chart and these numbers and so on and so forth. In fact, Complex Design was so masterful in archiving the content over the last couple of years and putting it into categories so that we wouldn't have this conversation, that you can actually peek through our content and you can hear the discussions. Okay? What's going on, MGTOW Universe? Actually, let me drop the link. I don't have people just in and out because I think people are waiting for the link. But a lot of those subscribers over there who subscribe to BGS, they don't know that there was something here before. And so when you give them the oral history, they pretend like that's not relevant to them. But then they sit around and have misinformation conversations or conversations around misinformation, then say, well, the Manosphere is having this big impact. And I'm like, not really. Because a lot of those arguments that they make, they go over to somewhere like Indisputable on YouTube, Dr. Rashad Ritchie, and he destroys these same guys. A lot of these guys don't like Roland Martin, and they come up on the panel when Roland Martin drops a link, and they get their heads chopped off. There's no way you're going to be able to take the information that is being spun up in this space today and go outside in the real world and use it. It's been proven that it doesn't work. Okay? It's been proven that it doesn't work. A lot of it is just a lot of it's a lot of stroking going on over there. And people pretend like, oh man, you're hating on the space. But how's it hating? How's it hating? If you're sitting around worried about just hilarious, you're not serious about anything. If you're sitting around worrying about whether or not Kamala Harris is actually a Black woman, you're not serious, man. These are not serious conversations. They don't lead to anything tangible. We wanted to have conversations that were more around substance, and that's pretty much what was going on back then. Now, as we said before, that content was flagged down in that era. We know that. Don Calypso has confirmed this. DC has confirmed this. Solar Black has confirmed this. Wacky World of O, the original O Man, has confirmed this. You see, the problem is a lot of these guys who are not from that era have a problem with people from that era. You'll notice that all the people from that era don't have any problems with each other. Don Calypso, Wacky World of O, the original O Man, DC, we all seem to get along just fine. It's these 2.0 guys, these new guys who don't get along. Okay? The same people who created a Manosphere Summit or a conference in Atlanta, none of those people are speaking to each other. Know why? Because it was never built on anything rock solid. So where's the big major impact? Where's the major impact? Oh, and shout out to Mr. Research from 1.02, still in the Manosphere. Where's the major impact? Like I said, man, I don't understand why so many people. Yeah, unknown one. You're right about that. It says messing up the history of a place or organization can get you murked. In reality, you're right. But in this space, it actually gets you props. You get a lot of props for misinformation in this space. And so people want you to prove, but we've already provided evidence. That's why when he says, well, no one provided any evidence to me, but that's not true. DC provided evidence. He played Pink Elephant's video on Art Newstall's panel. I wish I can remember the live stream too, man. I can't remember the name of the live stream, but it wasn't that long ago. And I remember it distinctively because it was requested, well, show me evidence that 1.0 existed, and I'll believe you. They played Pink Elephant's video, and it was immediately rejected after 5 minutes. And DC said distinctively, and I'm paraphrasing it, that's not the purpose of the video, wasn't to critique the content, it was to actually provide evidence. I remember that conversation because I was there that night. But people are pretending like this never happened. So when the people say, oh, we never said 1.0 didn't exist, that's bullshit. You're a liar. You're a liar, man. What's up, Complex, man?
Hey, Mike, what's good, man? You hear me? Am I coming in okay?
I can hear you, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, this is just another one of those instances where, you know, we're trying to rewrite the history of things. And it's not cool, man. It's not good faith, number one. Number two, it's just disingenuous as all hell.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because it's like Wackyo did a live stream, I don't know, maybe like a month and a half ago. And he used the Wayback Machine to pull up generationx.net. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so people on his live stream literally got to see generationx.net, the actual website that was up. It was a cached version of it on the Wayback Machine, right? And, you know, when you and I were chopping, man, I was just like, you know, oftentimes, man, websites that were up back in the day, dude, people don't keep the domains and shit. They go down, whatever the reason, right? Businesses go out or whatever the case, right? And the websites kind of go away. So, you know, just on that simple fact alone, you can't say, well, since that happened, there's no evidence. Dude, that's insane. That's just stupid. If you do find stuff on you know, I know there's some Pink Elephant videos up. There's some Barbarossa stuff up. I think there's a Thugtician 2 videos.
There's a Thugtician archive. There's a Thugtician archive. And so when they ask for evidence, they're not being serious about evidence.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So what they're trying to do is redact anything that came before BGS. And this isn't, you know, a personal attack on BGS. It's just for the sake of conversation, that because it's his channel that this happened on. They're trying to redact anything that came before him because they look, you know, they see him for whatever reason as the end all be all to black male, the black male space. And I'm saying that's why I enumerated. I said, no, that's not true. That's just not true. Well, that's just not true, look, bro.
Here's the thing, man. You can't firmly agree to be 2.0, right? Like he can't see. This is where you know this is all disingenuous, right? Because he rightfully cannot claim 1.0, right?
Right.
He acknowledges that. So obviously he's also acknowledging by that virtue 1.0 exists. So don't sit up here and question whether there's some content around to prove. Now you're being intellectually disingenuous. Dishonest. Yeah, you're being dishonest. Come on, you're supposed to be a master teacher, BGS.
Yeah.
Come better than that. Wait, Mike, just real quick. He also said he's spoken directly to Sergeant Willie Pete, guys like him, right? I think he's spoken to Tito before. He's dealt. Matter of fact, didn't he say that he was over on Rumble going back and forth with Soul and Black?
But we never saw any evidence of it, though. That's the thing. We never saw anything. We played back that clip on the Brain Trust, and I think Keep It 100 was actually listening, and he kind of confirmed in the comment section that we were right, that that's not what was said. And so I think this whole 1.0, 2.0 thing is the nothing burger that we called it before, that they're making it out to be like we're attacking them and we're hating on them, we're hating on the space, but that's not true. Because when I first came into BGS's live streams, the Coliseum, the Saturday nights, I was like, this place is in chaos because it's all over the place. And they said, oh, it's like a loose barbershop. Well, okay, fine. But what happens, what happens to the audio organization? Because a lot of these guys that were on the panel were saying that they were ex-military, they were in the military. So I said, military industrial complex, black men make up less than, well, I shouldn't say black men, but black military companies, or the military industrial complex comprises of less than 1% black people.
Right.
Less than 1%. Out of a $1 trillion industry, black people make up less than 1%. You all don't think that it should be in your best interest to come together and create your own Blackwater or Academy?
Blackwater, Z, or
well, we'll give you an example. All of the MRAPs for law enforcement, 80% of the MRAPs in this country are made by a company called Lenco, Lenco.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
They make all of the Bearcats, all of the MRAP, all of the mine-resistant ambush protected vehicles. You don't think with all these black men who claim to be, who claim they served in the military, how many tours they did, that they would actually come together and say, why don't we actually create our own, Lockheed Martin or Lenco? When I was trying to have that conversation back then, people weren't trying to hear it.
Nope.
On BGS's live streams.
I remember. Honestly, I'll tell you like this: it really wasn't the Coliseum until we were there, because when the conversations got to the politics and all that, the very things, by the way, for those of you guys that are listening, BGS said, "Well, listen, my subs don't want to hear all that." Yeah,
I remember that.
You remember they didn't want to hear all that. So just so you know, when he gets to talking about, I was talking politics and I was.
Yeah, but
let's just. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
no. To your point, he said he was having these conversations in the conscious community, but you were not in a predominantly black male space. That was why I had enumerated it, because there were conversations happening before. You did have political conversations happening before. I remember distinctively. Philly 215. I can name a myriad of content creators that are no longer around, but I remember these people distinctively. These were black men. And region specifically played a significant role. That's how Dr. Umar wasn't the only guy coming out of Philly. There was a lot of other cats coming out of Philly. Philly was a large stomping ground for black male content creators.
Yeah.
A lot of black male content creators were coming out of Philly. A lot of black male content creators were coming out of New York. A lot of black male content creators were coming out of Georgia. A lot of these content creators are coming out of Chicago. That was BMV. Mm-hmm. And so then you could take California into consideration, because you had Kobe NBA West, Pink Elephant. There were a variety of content creators that came out of space. And I'm saying we could run down the history because the content's not available, but we can speak to it as a witness. But they don't want to accept that. They want the clear evidence. I never said that the 1.0, as I call it, was this huge global impact. I never said that. All I said was,
Mike, that's a disingenuous fucking question. I'll question the global impact of 2.0 based on what BGS has to say about it. I'll say bullocks to all of it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's subjective. Yeah. That's why it was like. That's why I heard you. You were like, well, I don't have a measure. What would you even measure that by? First of all, let's get technical with it for a second. We would have to measure it by what? 3G technology standards at the time?
In order for you to have been involved in YouTube, you had to have a fast computer. The T-Mobile Sidekick did not play YouTube. That was considered to be a smartphone. The Nokia N-Gage or the N65 or whatever handheld device that you had back then did not play YouTube like that. It wasn't powerful enough to do that.
YouTube didn't even have an app at the time.
Yeah.
Let's do that. You had to create your YouTube account, then you had to shoot your video, and you had to do manual uploads. Right? It wasn't like how it evolved, especially in the mid 2010s, when then YouTube became a native app on the phone. And then on top of that, you had phones upgrade, because then we moved to 4G.
YouTube as an app didn't come out until the Google phone, the G1 or whatever you want to call it, the G phone, through T-Mobile, right? And so that was the intersection between people not being able to get on and people having to be able to get on, right?
This is
a fast computer was $1,000+ back then, $1,500, $2,000 back then. A lot of the people who came into YouTube, the black YouTube, came in through social media. I mean, came in through the mobile, because it was easy to actually, engage conversation that way than it was to actually sit in front of a computer and actually,
webcam
do that. But you had to record content, you had to upload it. There was a lot of things you had to do in order to be a part of the space. You couldn't just be a part of the space because of a phone. That didn't exist back then. And so that's why I'm trying to provide context, because a lot of these new guys who come into the space, they have no idea that there were black men here before. They only think it all started with these guys today. And I'm saying, no, that's not true.
Not true.
That's not true. DC has talked about this myriad of times, that he goes back to AOL Black Voices. Me too. He goes back to the Yahoo Messenger days. Me too.
Yeah.
Right? And so the social spaces, black male social spaces, is really what I'm talking about, that we were there. We know each other from these spaces. I know Soul and Black. Okay. I remember he was in Massachusetts. I remember all the things he used to do back then. Had his phone number, had many people's phone number in the space.
Dude,
Okay?
Soul and Black is a member of the Brain Trust, for the record. Okay,
he's a contributor. He's a contributor. But what I'm he's a contributor.
So it's not as if he would even tell you what this is all about.
Yeah. But they're making it seem like we're mad. But I'm saying, I don't like the idea of, like, for example, I'm not going to mention any content creators, but I saw the other day that certain people, content creators in chat room folks, were talking about O'Shea walking through Africa. Okay, talking about how dusty Uganda was and this and this. But you can only look at Africa through that lens, through the American lens, because you don't know that colonialism existed before. And so in order for you to understand why Africa looks the way that it does, is because of colonialism. And so you have to explain colonialism to people who are looking at it through the American lens. But these guys don't want to look at it from that perspective in the manosphere. They look at the manosphere and say, oh, everything starts with, 3 guys and that's it. And I'm like, no, there was people here before, but they don't want me to talk about those 3, the people who were here before. They only want to talk about themselves. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. Yeah. Not with me around.
Well, same here, dude. Because it's like, I'm not professing to be, the people that were, no, you guys weren't here. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's crazy to like for me, like I said, man, for him to say that, well, I've talked to Sergeant Willie Pete, I've talked to someone, like, okay, so you talked to people who were literally here before you. So what's the argument about?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Because he's asking Don Calypso for evidence. I'm saying, we've already provided evidence to you.
But
How
wait
much
a minute.
more evidence do you need?
Wait, Mike. Here's the thing. So basically what you're doing is you're negating Don Calypso and the fact that he was here before you.
Right.
You're literally just sidestepping that fact. Like, that's where I'm like, bro, like, how egregious can you get with your ignorance, bro? Like, this is insane.
Yeah, I mean,
like, if I go with Don Calypso, either you give it to me or he was a part of Black Men Then. He was there. Whether he gives it to you or not, what he tells you about it stands true. He was there.
I mean,
what Mike B says about it stands true. You were there.
Let's use, BGS uses a book. What's the name of that book, man? For whatever
Tragedy
reason.
and Hope.
No, not Tragedy and Hope, but give me 1 second.
All right.
Yeah, The Negro Family, E. Franklin Frazier.
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah.
Now that book talks about what happened in the 18th and 19th century to the Black family.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not providing you evidence in the sense of shackles and clothings and articles and things like that. No, they're providing you an oral history of what happened back then. And I'm saying to him, this is my oral history of knowledge of what was going on back then. And these guys were pretending as if that never happened.
Mike, I want the content produced of the people, okay? I want to see the uploads. Where's the content? Yeah, I'm joking, dude, because
No,
that's
no.
literally that was the reply. And what you just said was literally the most sensible thing in the context of what you're speaking. It's like, look, sometimes things do have an oral context to them, especially if there is a consensus who can confirm it, correct? If there
Yeah.
were multiple people there that witnessed it, then you must take it as true.
Yeah, I don't need to see, a body swinging from a tree to know that lynching
To
happened.
know, like, bruh.
I don't need to see that. Right? I don't need to see, Henrietta Lacks's
Her whole the petri dish where they collected the cell.
Yeah, I don't need to see all that. Now, if you tell me that slavery happened as a passing as an ability to engage in the conversation, if I don't know, if I didn't know about American history, then I would, I wouldn't even have to question it, right? It's just, I think there's some things that just don't need to be, you don't need to provide evidence for everything. And I think that that's what these guys do. They want evidence of every little thing. But when he says that there's that the manosphere is having this global impact, I'm not the only one who questioned the legitimacy of this. Keeping it 100, questioned the legitimacy of this. He asked him on his own panel, where is this being, where is this being had? And BJ said himself, well, I'll just take my content and leave. But that's not the argument. The argument isn't whether or not you should take your content and leave.
What?
The argument is where is the impact really happening? Because based on the conversations that's being had, it's not true that there's this impact because the conversations are circular, right? It's no shot at anybody personally. I'm saying everything's about anti-Black women, and that's it. And even to the point that people would vote for Trump and get nothing out of it, right? And I'm not saying who you should vote for. I'm saying voting for Trump was a response to, quote unquote, the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party Black women are so ubiquitous in the party that we'll vote Republican even if we get nothing out of it. And I'm saying that's a failed strategy. So what kind of impact are you actually having if that's the outcome? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Maybe that in their minds, that's what it is, right? Well, we're getting people to sign on to a failed strategy. And to that, I can probably give some credence. I can see some proof of that.
Yeah.
Kudos to you guys. Yeah, kudos.
And I'm not saying that he doesn't actually have, I think old BGS did really good content. I'll say that. I think he did extremely good. Well, let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
I think he did really good content when it came to the books, because he's one person in the space that actually reads. Okay, he's one of the few people that actually reads, and so that's one of the main reasons why I subscribe to him, because he reads and he knows some of the history. But the problem is a lot of his subscribers don't read, and so they wait for him to go live or upload a video in order to get their own information. But instead of actually doing the work themselves, they rely on him. And I'm saying if they only relied on him, then history only starts with him. And so when somebody like myself, or, and I hate to keep bringing up DC, but when somebody like Broski comes up and starts to say, well, let's examine the toothpaste out of the side of the tube, they don't want to do that.
No.
Yeah, they want to.
That's the same guy who told me feminism was going to, basically nuke micromobility, right? Or at least my company, right? Or my involvement in it, which just was literally the furthest thing from the truth. I could literally go down a list of things that are serving as more of a challenge. Mike, I even sent you a link, right, about what they're thinking about doing in California with e-bikes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's more of a challenge. For those of y'all who don't know, California is thinking about making it to where anybody who's going to be riding around on an e-bike, you have to be licensed. I'm not feeling that, but hey, but see, that's more of an impact. And I can say that because I'm here and I do the business, and it came across the wire. Don't like it. I haven't heard shit about feminism that's going to do a goddamn thing on business as of yet. But this right here, though, not quite feeling it. And so this is the kind of shit I'm talking about. It's just where it's like when every word that is hung on as some sort of just, it's always true. It's always a true statement or true testament. And then what we're going to do is negate people that have real time working experience and things, right? Because, you know, content or some shit, whatever. Fuck out of here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't follow every single word that, that these guys say or every sort of panel that they're on. But, based on the conversations that I've been around, with some of these guys, I don't see the conversation advancing from what it was 3 years ago, even 5 years ago. When we started talking about, you had a channel before the Black Brain Trust called Business, Wealth, and Power. And so when people say, oh, Complex, you were up here talking about the gynocracy too, but what are you talking about? Business, Wealth, and Power had nothing to do with the gynocracy or the matriarchy or anything like that. Now,
well, let's put his name out there. That was PK Angel. And like I said, well, look, you just name your price and then we'll go dig, bro. And I'll dig up my music channel. I'll dig up my racing channel. He could use my personal channel and he could use the Brain Trust. There's 4 channels, and between the 4, dude, it's the amount of videos is a lot. So, but he can feel free. And when he doesn't find it, like I said, I just wanted Cash App to me. That's it. That's all.
Yeah. So I just think that, because, a lot of people will make the assertion that, oh, you guys are just mad because you're not getting any credit. And I'm saying that's not true. I just told you that you need to know the history, that there was somebody here before you. And then they say, well, we don't see any evidence of it. Right? That's what colonizers coming out of Europe, that's what they said about America.
That's what they did. Now look, just real quick, in terms of we're not getting any kind of attention or views or validation or anything like that. Well, we had Judge Joe Brown here not too long ago. Hello. Y'all heard that, right? Well, you guys know it, but for those listening in from the clouds, maybe, when did he pull up on BGS? We're not tripping on that. What we're tripping on is the lies and the false information. That's what we're tripping on. Let's keep it centric and central to what it is that we're addressing. Don't say, well, yeah, I've dealt with Sergeant Willie Pete. I've talked to him. He's done, I don't know how many videos, responses to Sergeant Willie Pete, all kind of shit, right? I've heard him do responses to Soul and Black some years back, right? Said recently he was going back and forth with him on Rebel. Well, don't mention them and then say, where is 1.0? Dude, just come on. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to that point, yeah, Soul and Black is evidence of a space existing before you. I mean, he's a content creator, I mean, why would he classify it as 1.0 if you're saying he just said he was on his panel, he never mentioned it. So how can he talk to you about 1.0 if he never mentioned it before? That's what I'm saying. Like,
come on, dude.
There's so much, the hate isn't coming from us. I enumerated the space. So to say that, there was Soul and Black talked about 1.0, he couldn't have possibly have talked about that if you just said he was on your panels, he never mentioned it.
Well, let's do this.
You see how inconsistent the information is?
But wait, let's do this for the record. For the record, do you recall the back chat Google Hangout where it was all of us and Soul and Black was there and you were breaking it down to him? Yeah. Do you remember that? Okay.
Yeah, he said he remembers me.
Okay. See, so BGS, for the record, if you heard it from Soul and Black, well, I just told you where it was that Soul and Black heard it. And he can confirm it, I can confirm it, Mike can confirm it. Don't play.
Yeah.
So if you heard it from Soul and Black will say, well, yeah, that's because Mike put me up on game. Because Mike is the one who came up with it. For the record, you guys. For the record, that was Mike. I'm the one who wrote the manifesto for 3.0. That's how this goes down. Anything else is a goddamn lie.
What's interesting is that at least for me, and I won't speak for you, but the idea that bringing PhDs to a space, people didn't talk like that back in 1.0. No one talked about that. Soul and Black and Thugtician had their differences. Captain Solo and Soul and Black had their differences, and Captain Solo and Thugtician had their differences. And, there's a myriad, myself and Sergeant Lee Pete had major differences.
Yeah.
Major differences. I was completely in opposition to what he was talking about and what he was doing. I thought, I'll just leave it at that. I was completely in opposition to what he was talking about. But what I'm saying here is, I think that a lot of these guys can't see themselves in this space without said content creators. They can't see themselves without it. Like for us, we don't hold on. And I said for us, I'm saying like people from 1.0, we don't hold on to the idea that only we're the big three or the big five or the big 10 or the SWAC or something. We don't really look at ourselves like that, right?
No.
We center the space around us and not us around the space. If that makes any sense. Like we're not centering our individual selves, we're centering the space first. So that's why I enumerated it, right? So you have to, when you enumerate it, you're saying that something existed, and what comes after that are the people, and what comes after that are the content, and what comes after that are the discourses, and so on and so forth. With them, it's the big three, it's the big one, it's this, it's that, it's everything other than the space.
Yeah.
And so when they say, well, it wasn't called Black Manosphere, no, it wasn't. But if you're trying to say that Black Manosphere as a specific term to identify Black male social spaces, well, historically, that's just not true in YouTube. And so that's all I was saying. And they couldn't handle that at the time that it was being said. And that's where all of this came out.
Yeah. And once again, though, it's like, but what we do acknowledge is the people that we identify with the 1.0 space existed because by the mere admission that I've literally had discourse with them. They've been on my panels. I've had exchanges with them, this and that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if it was called the Black Manosphere, no, does it? It doesn't matter. You're still acknowledging their existence, and you're acknowledging the existence of a space that existed prior to you coming into it. Doesn't matter what it's called. Doesn't matter if you can't find a whole lot of videos. It's hard to find a lot of shit on YouTube nowadays. It just really is. This is why I have shit tons of playlists and things that I just save, so that I can always go back to it. Why? Because look, the way the algorithms work now, it's really hard to find that shit if you try to search it. You might have to come up with some weird search query strings to put in that YouTube search to try to nail in something.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just what it is. And this is what we keep talking about. There's the evolution of the technology. Dude, do you realize we're like, put it like this. The amount of uploads that happen in one day on YouTube today probably equal the amount of uploads YouTube got in a year if we went back to like 2008 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
Just for scale and scope. Okay? So let's not ignore the impact of the evolution of technology and all that. Okay? As smartphones got more advanced and cheaper, and the app became native on the phones, i.e. YouTube, more people got on board. Pure and simple.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just think that what frustrates me is that people snipe from the chat and they never come on the panel, and the people who do come on the panel, they're only there to defend BGS. That's the type of stuff that I don't like, because you would never see people do that in like 1.0. Nobody would ever climb up onto a discussion just to defend, Thugtician or SWP or something like that. And I'm using like SWP because he's kind of like the firebrand to the history, but he's not the only person that existed. A lot of people, I've heard some people saying in the chat room, like, 1.0 was about SBE, but that's not true. But that's why you need people who were there to actually confirm that saying that 1.0 was about SBE is not true. It's just not true. There was no shame, but Jenks Morton was not SBE. Tim Alexander was not SBE. They told their stories through documentaries, and they were in the space.
But
I
once
actually
again,
spoke to I actually spoke to Jenks Morton a myriad of times. And that's how I was able to play his content on the Brain Trust.
on Brain Trust, right?
Yeah, I had to get permission from him because I talked to him directly. He said, I have no problem with you all over there on the Brain Trust doing that. I'm perfectly satisfied with that. And so I think they can't, it doesn't, this isn't about evidence, okay? This, send me a hard drive and send me, that's not what this is about. This is about, ego for a lot of folks. Because let me share my screen real quick. Let me share, yeah.
I mean, listen, man, I I can't help the fact that there's a group of people that wanted to hedge their content strategy on what Kevin Samuels had going on, and rest in peace to the brother. But goddamn.
Well, it was Kevin Samuels, and you remember this vividly, who called us snobs.
Yes, he did.
He called us snobs. He said, you guys talk about business too much. You're business snobs.
Business snobs.
What? Yeah, remember that?
Yeah, remember like that sup snobs. Remember that was like a running joke on the Brain Trust for like 2 years.
Yeah, remember that? Snob
Sup,
this.
snobs.
Yeah, that came from Kevin Samuels. That came from Kevin Samuels calling us business snobs. We talk about business too much. You're always talking about business. What's wrong with you guys? Always talking about business, right?
Because they're snobs.
So don't pretend like, we were the SBE. No, we were talking about.
No, that's not true.
Yeah,
that's not true.
And Complex has, masterfully organized this.
I gotta update it. I'm not bullshitting, Mike. I'm gonna take a weekend, bro, because we probably got to dump another 300 videos. It's been a minute since I updated it, so I do got to update. But go ahead. If you're going back a minute, it'll be in there. Yeah,
no, I'm just showing that because a lot of these guys who are new to the space would think that we're the new guys, like DC was saying on the panel. They think that we're the new guys and we're hating on 2.0 and something like that. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's we have to correct the record because, in my opinion, I think that even Broski would disagree about this, but I can't allow information to be put out there that is just factually untrue. It's just not true. That what you're saying is just not true. I mean, let me just go through the archive real quick. I mean,
ahead, bro,
we archived a lot of videos, primarily because we wanted to create a repository for folks in the space, so that when they come by, they see some of the past dealings and work that we've done. I mean, the
Mike,
Black Card Talk. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing. You know what I did test last week, dude? If you type in the Black Brain Trust and then like E and then an episode number, the episode comes up. That's for everyone. So that's one way if you want to key in on an episode, you want to dig in the crates, go back, just throw in, right, any number up to 8 something. Well, I don't know where we're at, like 812 or some shit. But if you type in the Black Brain Trust, E, and then a number, any number between like 1 and 812, it'll give you that episode. I will say that works.
Yeah. And so I'm mentioning this because we're pretty structured in our way of doing content. Now, we're not doing content to go viral. We're creating a repository from Black men, for Black men, so you can hear it from us. Because I can almost guarantee you go to who's a white content creator that creates tech content?
Linus Tech Talks.
He's white?
Yeah, Linus Tech Talks.
Let's use him for example, or even
Ellie the computer guy.
Yeah, Eli the computer guy.
Eli the computer guy, yeah.
They're not going to let you up there. They're not going to let you up there. Now you can absorb his content, but you're not going to engage him. He's not going to be able to relate to you because he's not, they're not for you. That content is not for you. That's for their people. And so when they say like, oh, because he has a lot of subscribers that take shots at us, but never come up on the panel. When you hear these people say, we're nobodies, or Mike V's a nobody. When you say I'm a nobody, then you're saying the brain trust is a nobody too, because of what? Oh, you're a nobody to this space. Really? Really? Are you sure about that? You sure about we're nobodies?
Sure. Are you sure about that?
Are you sure about that? Because old buddy over there, he's not doing any of this. He's not doing any of this. We don't have lesser intelligent people coming on our panel. People are equally yoked. People are equally
yoked. Bringing new shit to the table, man. I see the homie Jamal in the chat. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
Okay. Bringing new shit to the table.
Yeah. You don't hear us lecturing people. We don't lecture people. That's not our thing. We don't do things like that. Okay. We don't belittle people for what they don't know. We actually give people enough insight so that they can know. But what happens in this space is that people want to make it seem like there is no master teacher over here. We don't call ourselves that.
We're a collective.
Yeah, we're a collective.
The BMCC.
Which they said didn't even exist back. Well, they didn't call themselves Black Manosphere. Yeah, because they called themselves Black Male Conscious Collective. Well, did it exist? Asking all these questions didn't make any sense because the evidence has already been provided to you. You just don't want to accept the evidence.
Right.
It's like cod liver oil. It's good for you, but you don't want to accept that shit.
Castor oil, dude.
Yeah. You won't accept it. And so
if I say the brain trust is that, dude, they don't want to accept it. Crazy, yeah, right?
And very few of our content actually attacks anybody. Very, very little of it. Right? You can't look at this.
No, none of it, dude. None of it. What we do is we correct the record. You even name them that.
Yeah, you can't look at this archive and then say that, oh yeah, all you guys do is hate on the manosphere. How?
All you do is this. All you do is hate on the manosphere. All you do is talk shit. All you do is this. All you do that. Bro, that's a fucking lie.
When we were talking about cannabis and social equity, I don't recall those other guys having that conversation. When we were talking about, what do you call it? I'm sorry, I just missed it.
With a blockchain and cryptocurrency, horology,
but just
all this shit.
But just in regards to economics that impacts Black men, I didn't hear these guys talking about that. And I'm saying a lot of what we're discussing now, I kind of brought a lot of that from those 1.0 days because I remember distinctively. Actually, let me pull up Pink Elephant.
Yeah, pull this shit up.
Here you go, right here. About section. He joined August 10th, 2008. Now, he had said he had been watching a year before this, before he even made content. The purpose of my vids is to help Black men reach a level of spiritual happiness in America. I do this by discussing issues within the Black community and in society at large. You see that? Don't come in here and ask me for evidence.
Come on, man. Dude, come on.
Don't come in here and ask me for evidence. He has 886 videos. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's disingenuous to sit here and say the manosphere is going to have this big impact, but you can't stand on truth. How you gonna move forward? You can't stand on truth.
Come on, man. That's bad faith right there, dude. You're arguing in bad faith right there.
Yeah, come on. Like, it's corny. I just think that shit's corny, man. And these guys in here, like, well, I don't see how it helps me. Well, you got to explain how this guy's helping you, right? Or how this content creator is helping you, right? He hasn't made content in 9 years. And this is a guy who This is a brother who is Nigerian, living in California, and considers himself to
He's
be
on the West Coast. He's on the West Coast, right?
Yeah, he's in Southern California. And so when I hear people say like, oh, you need to provide evidence. I mean, how much more evidence do we need to provide? I played a clip the other day. I forget what the brother's name is, man. It just really escapes me. It's been so long. But you know, he's a light-skinned brother. He's biracial, but he identifies as black.
The brother from like, what was it, like 2006?
Yeah, 2006.
Yeah, that dude. I remember him. I can't remember his name, but I remember him.
I mean, if you really look at this brother's content, Pink Elephant, a lot of it mirrors the sort of discussions that we're having today, right? Let's go through it. The street guy and the college guy, 10 years ago, he was having this conversation back in 2008, 2009. Who's black in America? My thoughts. You know, that was a big political discourse that was happening at the time. Black cultural change through black employer force, right? He's responding to Sergeant Willie P. So this SWP, that's how people responded to each other's content back then.
Hey, Mike, hey, real quick, can you drop the link again?
Yeah, but we're gonna be getting out here in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't want to bring too many people up here. Successful black men afraid of successful black women. That's not SBE. That's not SBE. That's him giving his thoughts intellectually in the black male social space. He just said that in his about section. The purpose of my vids is to help black men and the ones who are productive and not oversexed. Huh? SBE, what? What are you talking about, man?
Dude,
what are you talking about?
That's awful. That was awful. That was awful. I don't recall who said that, but yeah, that's awful, dude.
So when people say like MOT, you know, all you want to do is talk about productivity, but that's what was being discussed in 1.0. But you wouldn't know that if you let certain content creators influence you.
Right there, folks.
There's your evidence. So after today, don't ask me for evidence. Don't ask me for nothing. We've given you this evidence many times before, but nobody wants to accept it. Don't use Sergeant Willie P as the litmus test for what 1.0 was. He's a firebrand to the space, and Tommy Sotomayor was not a part of 1.0. He was a part of Black YouTube. That's a different, it's a different genre of social space within itself. Okay. Channels. Here, you know, these are the channels from people, you know, that were in Manosphere 1.0.
Oh, snap. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Where's the proof? Channels. Where's the proof?
Yeah, these are the channels. That's why when people say, you know, you need to keep providing proof, you need to do this, you need to do that. We've already done. Common Genius is here. I talked about him last week. Okay. I'm sick and tired of folks pretending like they didn't understand what I said. I said what I said, nigga. What's wrong with y'all, man? People are just butthurt, man, because their favorite content creator isn't being celebrated. That's all it really comes down to, man. I get frustrated when I hear this, you know, pushback, and I'm like, what are you pushing back? He played like a clip from what I said on the Brain Trust, and I'm like, okay, so what's your problem with what I said?
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. I was like, and okay. I was like, okay. Your problem is.
Yeah, what's your problem? What did I say that was wrong? Or you said that, you know, we're misogynists. Yeah, if you sit around, if you sit around bashing, you know, Black women for nothing. I mean, whether it's Condoleezza Rice or Just Hilarious or whoever it is, man. But you're not calling out white supremacy, really?
Or just taking something that literally has nothing to do with sisters and somehow spinning it into them. Dude, that bewilders me, bro.
Oh, unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Now clip this. Clip this. I dare anybody to
no, please
try to clip what I'm saying. I'm pretty clear on what I'm saying. I'm very clear on what I'm saying.
Yeah, please clip this. Matter of fact, BGS, if you are listening, here's a video for you to do a response to. This one. Do a response to this one right here.
No, he's not gonna
I
do
know
any
he's not.
response to this. But the rest of these guys who want to co-sign him, who don't know the history, I'm only in my 20s. Well, we're not talking to you, nigga. What the fuck, man? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, bro, they always trying to jump their way to the top and like, oh, well, let me get up on the pill and let me say this. You're not a part of the conversation, bro.
You were watching fucking Josh and Drake on Disney Junior.
Watching Dora the Explorer.
Dora the Explorer, nigga. Like, get out of here. What are you talking about? Skedaddle.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom even said himself he wasn't a part of the Black Ministry. He said that many times. It's just, people want to distort the history, you know, in order to uphold whatever fallacy that they can. And that's really what this is about.
I mean, we get nothing financially or anything out of this.
No, because we came in with our own bag. We came in with our own bag. Because if you were really serious, because if you were really serious about helping Black men, if you were really serious about it being a Black manosphere in the way that you're doing, they turn the super chats and the cash apps off and let's see. Let's see.
That's what I'm saying. Like we what do you? I don't know. Outside of literally just keeping everything 100. Okay. Outside of that, we don't get anything out of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I know people like, oh, y'all niggas just sound like haters. Okay.
I'm just saying, we're not asking for money. Hating on what? That's my thing. It's like, so if we're not trying to tap your pockets, what say you is our motivation then? If that's what you really think.
Yeah, because they're okay with they're okay with the state of the space or the status of the space. They're okay with things not working and conversations not going anywhere. And I'm like, oh, it helped me a lot. And when I asked them how to help me, they couldn't explain it. It's the same thing with, these white folks who talk about they hate wokeism so much. Well, what does it mean to be woke? It means, you know what woke means. It's like, nah, fam, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not telling anybody who they should subscribe to or anything like that. I'm just saying these guys will defend anything going off of a cliff. They'll defend it. They'll defend it all the way till they go off of a cliff. And a lot of these guys are going off of a cliff. That's why you kind of hear MOT raging on folks, because that's what he's sick and tired of seeing.
Well, I'm just waiting for Chat GPT to get it done. Get her done.
They pretended like he never said that either.
Bruh.
They pretended like what they heard on the breakdown some weeks ago, where Buddy was asked about, why what the Concrete Rose asked him about white supremacy in the Black manosphere having something in common. I mean, you can't make this up. That type of stuff didn't go on back then. Folks wasn't. A lot of these folks in what we call 1.0 would have never come out of your mouth.
None of this stuff. None of the the L Gibbets. None of this. None of this madness. Okay, none of this. None of this.
Yeah. So, anyways, man, any closing thoughts?
Man, Mike, you know what it is, dog. Till next time, bro.
All right, man. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button as you come through, as you leave. Hit that notification bell so you go to the updates from the Black Brain.